Backloggers, welcome back to another bite-sized episode of the Backlog Breakdown, where you get a 2-for-1 this evening or morning or afternoon, whenever you're listening to this. But it's not just me. I'm your regular, I don't know, one of your hosts, Josh, and your other host is here too, Nate. How you doing, man?
It's a me, Nate.
It's a me.
Natio.
Yes, exactly.
I actually.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, I hate that. I don't know why I said that. It's terrible. Ugh.
It's a me, Louis Josh. I don't know. Oh no. Anyways, that's enough of that.
No, I actually, well, I had to turn down the volume on my headset there because
I was just way too
the
loud.
intro music was very loud, like for whatever reason. I don't know. Yeah, it's me, and we have business to attend to.
Yeah, that's right.
Reparations must be made.
Mm.
I don't know if reparations, but anyways, the short version is that we did slay the Spire the other week.
We did. Yep.
And a friend of the show reached out to me and said, "Hey, I was listening to it. He was like, he said it was a pretty good episode. He's like something kind of didn't sit right with me, and he's like the fact is like you guys, you have like this mission statement that like you're here to sort of help the church think about video games, and engage them wisely." And he's like, like your technical conversation about Slay the Spire was pretty good. He's like, but there's like you kind of hand waved a lot of the set dressing and everything away. And he's like, there's actually some stuff there that's kind of interesting, and it would actually probably be beneficial for you guys to chop up. And so I reached out to you and I said, hey, I think we actually should talk about this a little bit because like, yeah, that is one that like we exist to help the church, to equip our brothers and sisters to engage the medium of video games wisely and well. Right, is kind of like the thing. And now, to be fair to us, and maybe it's a bit of a sort of a I'm kind of like just a limp wrist kind of excuse where I'm just trying to hand wave it away a little bit. The fact is that we had originally planned last week to do something else, the show that the next episode, full episode that airs, we were going to talk about Astral Chain, but that kind of got bumped because we weren't quite ready for it. And so we were like, hey, we've both played Slay the Spire. We both like Slay the Spire. It's on our list. We can talk about it. And so there wasn't a ton of prep work. We didn't really dig into the lore. And part of it is like the lore to a certain extent is kind of, it's just set dressing. It's not very prominent. It's not even sort of coherent in the way that like a Souls-like game, like Dark Souls or Demon Souls or Elden Ring, like there's lore in those games and you really have to dig to uncover it, but it's there. A lot of the lore in Slay the Spire tends to be just sort of more inferred. And a lot of stuff is kind like there are some things that are explained, but for the most part, there's not a lot. So we kind of glossed over that.
Right.
But there are things there that probably deserve to be talked about. And so in an effort to kind of fix that, we decided, hey, let's just take a couple minutes. We'll do a bite size. So we'll take 15, 20 minutes. We'll talk about this, sort of maybe hash a few things out for everybody. And yeah, because yeah, we do want, like, we are sort of leaning into the more explicitly, sort of beneficial for the church kind of angle. And there is some meat on this bone. So anyways, that is the context for this bite size. That's why it's both of us. And because we both borked it.
Yeah. Like you said, we kind of hand waved it away, and also, like you said, it's mainly. I would say mainly. In my case, it's mainly because you don't necessarily need any of the lore in order to play and enjoy the game. However, yes, if we are to engage the medium well and wisely, then we ought to at least talk about what's there. And frankly, in this case, I would say also caution
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
any players. So, you know, being a mid 30, approaching late 30s year old man with kids, um, I often think the listener would be in my similar situation. And so some things that perhaps don't raise too many red flags for me may for some other people. So if I guess what I'm trying to say is I would not recommend this game to say a 12-year-old unless you understand kind of what you're getting into, because the set dressing can get pretty dark when you actually
Yeah.
start to look into it. And like you said, we did mention it just a little bit. First character that you get, the ironclad character
Mm-hmm.
in Slay the Spire, excuse me. One of the cards that I liked a lot, that's very powerful, is your demon form. Um, so that means your character can turn into a demon, right? uh, yes. Now, again, if you think of it purely just as a mechanical thing in terms of set dressing, you're gaining, extra strength, then cool, that's fine. But we also do have to acknowledge, hey, that's not kosher. In your general kind of it, the game is a very dark fantasy. And that's
Yeah.
something I don't think we really grappled with, where both of us enjoy dark fantasy.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that's part of the other issue is that you and I both sort of tend to, I wouldn't say rebel in that, but like we both
Mhm.
sort of like, I make no bones about the fact that I like grimdark. I spend, a lot of the when I read fiction, um I like, you know, like one of
Mhm.
my favorite series is The Black Company, which it is the proto grimdark series, like,
Okay.
so it's like it is kind of like we like that. We're fans of like the Souls games, Elden Ring, and there's a sort of a grittiness and sort of a
Yeah.
griminess to that we're just kind of like, it doesn't, and maybe that's to our detriment, but like
Mhm.
we're just not as sensitive to that. Um, but even some of the ideas that like these characters like so the Ironclad,
Mhm.
like there's a little bit of backstory, and again it's not sort of readily, it's not made like readily available, but the Ironclad, in order to gain his power, he makes a pact with this demon, right? And he killed his village to secure that bargain, right? So he killed all the people he grew up with to secure this power. And so there's like, that's again, to borrow the phrase that you use, that's not kosher. And so there's stuff in there that it's, and again, like I would say it's kind of one of those things where it's more set dressing than anything, but there's a general tone to the game that I think you and I we're again, we're not as sensitive to that. But it is kind of like, it's almost like, you remember when we were really big into Christian, and I used to just be like the Christian saga. It's like it's villains the whole way down. Like everybody
Right.
kind of sucks.
Right.
Slay the Spire is kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like the characters you play, especially, I mean, I think there could be an argument made for the defect in the Watcher,
Okay.
but with the Silent and the Ironclad, at the very least, like these are not really good people. At
Mhm.
best, you might typify them as anti-heroes, but then there's also the issue of like that whale spirit thing, Niao, that
Mhm.
you sort of bargain with, and the way that character like constantly resurrecting people to sort of attempt the Spire climb again.
Mhm.
And there's just kind of so it's like there's sort of an underlying tone there that I just don't think, yeah, it's like it's not appropriate for younger audiences. Like
Right.
I would say like I would even maybe caution, like a teenager, like a
Mhm.
parent, like if a teenager wanted to play this game, at the very least, I would caution parents to say like, hey, be aware that thematically it's kind of dark. Like
Yeah.
mechanically, it's a really great game, thematically, it's probably not appropriate. It's not quite on the level of like some of the monsters from Persona. Some of the
Sure.
levels of
Yeah.
just gratuity. Um,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
but yeah,
Right. Yeah. Like you said, villains all the way down. This whale creature apparently wipes the memory of anyone. That's why you don't carry over any progress, is
hmm
because it wipes your memory every time because it wants you to slay the spire. It wants you to actually kill it. The whole spire that you're in, I didn't realize this, but if you pay attention to the types of enemies that you fight in each, not level, level is not the right word because they use level
I'd
in
say
terms of every
biome.
battle. Yeah, yeah. It actually has some world building elements in there. So I think it's the second biome where you're fighting primarily cultists,
hmm
and you see like one of the final bosses is a cultist who's like turning into its bird deity thing, and it
Yeah.
actually has a ritual knife sticking out of its side, and so it's performed some sort of cultic ritual in order to, either allow its deity to inhabit it, because they serve this bird, and you can see that in the different types of cultists. There's
hmm
some that just have like twigs that look like really stupid, trying to be a bird, but then you see a hooded person that actually has a bit of a wing underneath its hood. But finally, you see this thing that it's on all fours, this boss character, but you can see it has a beak. It's turning into this kind of bird deity. So again, that's pretty dark.
Yeah.
That like cultists have taken over this thing, and they have some sort of practice where they're uh uh, flaying themselves in order to become more like their god. I mean, again, villains all the way down, because they're also like basically the only humanoid creatures that you fight are bandits that are coming, to kill
Yeah.
you, take your stuff and run away. So no, there's no good guys here. It, it's just trying to make your way through. And so it seems as though the spire itself, yeah, okay, you have a reason to kill it, right, to get rid of the,
hmm
whatever's going on here, but you
This
don't know.
cycle of corruption or whatever is
Yeah,
sort of like,
yeah,
yeah, but it's also kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like the means don't always justify the end.
right,
Like, even in the case of the Ironclad, like you
yeah,
make a pact with with a demon,
right,
or some sort of demonic entity.
yeah.
The
Do
silent
not
is a
recommend.
poisoner. Um, is kind of, maybe the silent, you can make the argument, is kind of like a trapper, but it's like, again, it's like lots of poison, like, even the deck that it uses, it's lots of like poison effects and things like that, where
Mhm.
it's kind of like, yeah. So it's one of those things where like, we sort of neglected this because, frankly, we didn't really think about it. Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't affect
Mhm.
us. For, and you might say that's
And
that's not ideal either, but whatever. We're grown men.
well,
You
and
know.
and we were pretty upfront that like it's more the thing that we like about the game was the mechanics.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so it's not, yeah, it just, I didn't feel that the story was very pertinent. Although the things that we could pick up on, yeah, we should have given it more time to at least mention, yeah, this is pretty dark. Like this is,
Yeah.
and I think all the more, I'm really glad that, that we had your friend reach out to us and that we're doing this because we're on the cusp of Slay the Spire 2 coming out. And apparently the devs have said that it has more of a story to it. So we may find out in the ensuing months that it's even darker than we suspected. In which case, then we really have egg on our face. So I think
Yeah.
this is a good exercise to at least just, hey, there is a caution, even though we would still highly recommend the game. We do need to put that caution there if we're going to be mindful consumers and take the worldview of the game into account.
hmm
The worldview for this game is not very good.
Yeah.
It is like you said, an end justify the means, in terms of the storytelling worldview. Yeah.
It's very brutal. It's
Mhm.
very sort of like, there's again, it's sort of one of those things where like, the phrase villains all the way down, but it's just kind of, again, and this is kind of actually pretty typical of grimdark type
Mhm.
in like stories where it's just like there really aren't good guys. There are people who are just like less bad, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
And
Or
um
perhaps their goal has some goodness. They're seeking to achieve a better outcome.
yeah, their goal or their ambitions might sort of like smack of righteousness, but sort of
Mhm.
every like all their tools and all their methodologies sort of do lean into just, frankly, uh, not great. I
Yeah.
hesitate to say wicked, but a lot of times it's kind of like they're just not very nice. Um,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
sort of segueing here, we do have and this is something that we've been kind of inconsistent in doing, but we figured this would probably be a great opportunity to sort of drag this out. We do have a form that we try to sort of, whenever we talk about a game, we try to drag this form out and sort of ask some questions about the game.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm just going to pull that out. And,
Okay.
I think we probably tackled some of this. So we asked the question, who made it? I don't have that information in front
I
of me.
believe
Give me
it's
a second.
Megacrit, right?
Is that
Yeah. Megacrit
okay?
is the name of the developer.
Okay,
Mhm.
so Mega Crit made the game. Who should play it? Again, we would just caution this. This is probably a more should be oriented towards a more mature audience. Probably wouldn't recommend this for, I mean, maybe if you have a pretty discerning teenager, but even there, I just think the sort of I just think of myself as a teenager, and that there is that sort of like that edgy kind of thing, teenage
Yeah.
boys just kind of, you know like, oh cool, and it's I don't know if that's great.
Mhm.
um what is it? It's a card based sort of RPG roguelike thing. um But what should you keep in mind while playing it? And again, this is sort of we've kind of hashed this out repeatedly, but that it is really tonally dark. Um, Thematically, there's a lot of stuff that just is, you know, again, it's not. I don't think it's like it would. I don't think it would be inappropriate for every Christian to play this game. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that
Right.
a lot of people can probably enjoy this, play it with a fairly clean conscience. However, there are things to be aware of. There are things to be maybe a little cautious about. Sort of even looking at the world, like, asking the question, what is the worldview behind this game? It's, again, it's set in that sort of that grim dark type environment, which tends to be sort of very, I'm using the term brutal again, but it's sort of it's very humanist a lot of the times, in the sense that, um it's, well, I wouldn't use humanist in this, that, a lot of grimdark can be, but there's also like a lot
Mhm.
of like cosmic entities, but it's kind of like that
Right.
cosmic horror thing where like HP Lovecraft would, like, with the cosmic horror stuff, it was like part of the big thematic thing is like when you were dealing with these greater entities, right? They were either
Mhm.
indifferent or sort of just malevolent. Like
Mhm.
it's like they might use you, but more often than not, you're about as significant as a bug, to them in that
Mhm.
sort in that scope. And so it's kind of one of those things where that's some of like the set dressing that sits underneath this. Like those are the ideas that this game that doesn't even play with. But again, this is like the setting of the game. And
Right.
so, um, you know,
Yeah, it may kind of veer into the more mythological, I guess if you want to think it that way, but I think it is pretty apparently pagan in that you have
yeah,
cultists, you have these deities throughout the game, whether it's the whale Niao or the Watchers apparently are some sort of angelic beings that are watching over things, right? Something along those lines. I wasn't too certain.
Yeah, I'm not really like I was doing some, and there's like for anybody who wants to sort of go down the rabbit hole, there are Reddit threads dedicated to the lore of
Mhm.
Slay the Spire.
That
Um,
have not been confirmed by the developers, so it's
yeah,
kind of a shot in the
that's
dark.
this is the thing is that the developers in regards to the lore of this game have been pretty close-lipped.
Mhm.
So a lot of it is like there's a lot of stuff that can be inferred. There's a lot of stuff
Right.
that can sort of be like can be pulled out of the game. But a lot of a lot of the deep dives into the lore of the game are speculative. They're fan
Yeah.
theories at best. Um, so um, sort of some of the other questions like why does it matter? Well, it matters because it's probably one of the best stinking card games available. Like
Mhm.
outside, maybe Balatro is better,
Okay.
but I don't know. I also like the format where it's like it's kind of a card game, but there's also the sort of moving through the different sort of sequences and
Mhm.
you know um yeah, I I I prefer this just because like it does sort of
Okay.
mix it up. It's got sort of like a little bit of a role playing kind of thing where there's different scenarios that you can sort of address either through combat or sometimes not. You make decisions and things happen. So I kind of like that as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the core gameplay loop of the roguelite, way
mhm,
that it's set up, along with the random cards and relics and things that you get, is just so satisfying. The mechanics of the card game is solid. You add in all of it is very cohesive, so that
mhm,
you start learning how to play better. You learn what you want to, and it's dynamic also, with all the different random elements to them. So it's really special, the way that it all comes together. So I think
mhm,
why it matters is because it's just a masterfully made game that's very
yeah.
satisfying to play.
I mean, it is on our top 100. It's I again, I can't remember the exact placement, but it's sort
Sure.
of towards the bottom. And the reason it's on there is because I wanted a deck building game that wasn't Marvel Snap.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
that was why it got put on there. But I would say like I think it has kind of earned its place. It's a game that I really like. I
Mhm.
would strongly recommend it, but with some really heavy caveats. Like
Yeah.
if any of that content sounds like it would offend your conscience, don't play it. By no
Right.
means, like like, but if you can play it in good conscience, and I think, I think some people probably can. I think a lot of people probably can. You know, but yeah. So that's kind of that's where I land as far
Yeah.
as that goes. Um, I guess what are your thoughts on it? Just real quick before we move on to the final question of the too long didn't listen. Um,
Thoughts on why it's in the top 100, or
it just I guess
uh,
like well, out of all those questions, like, is there
mhm.
anything else that we should hit before we kind of move on and tell people where they can find that game, find Slay the
Yeah.
Spire?
And I can't think of anything outside of that I didn't say on the main episode. I do think it's a really well done game. I think, it's really fun to play. I was gonna say I'll go back to it, but I have such a huge backlog. I don't know that I can promise anything, but
Yeah.
I do really enjoy it, and so it does come highly recommended if it's the type of game, if that piques your interest at all. However, I do think, yeah, that's kind of the point of this bite-sized episode, is that it does come with a caveat of just noticing, because there are also other dark games. One that comes to mind is maybe something like Hollow Knight, that
Mm,
is dark in tone, that's more melancholy. It's not dark because
mm-hmm.
you play anti-hero, or everything is super malicious in the game. No, that's not, like, Hollow Knight does not feel that way. It just feels somber. It feels melancholy. There's a blight that's there. There's some weird, possibly cosmic elements going on as well. But it doesn't ever feel like you're playing a bad guy. Where this game, yeah, it definitely, certainly at times you are playing a bad guy. So just be careful with that.
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, there's some stuff in there where it's like, pretty low hanging fruit. Again, like in the case of the Ironclad, we don't make deals with demons. Our king,
don't do that.
He put his boots firmly on their necks. So yeah, wouldn't recommend doing that.
No, probably not.
0 out of 10 would not recommend. No stars.
No.
But if you are at all interested in Slay the Spire, you can pretty much get it anywhere. It's available on phones. It's on every console.
You don't have a phone?
You don't have a phone? You people don't have phones?
You don't have phones?
It's on Steam. It's on all the consoles. It's pretty much everywhere. So yeah,
readily available.
So with all of that sort of the sort of context sort of laid out there, again, be wise if this is if any of this sounds like material that might offend your conscience or is not appropriate, maybe like avoid it, because it's not necessary. But it is pretty cool, and if it's not gonna like sear you, then play and enjoy it, because it's pretty stinking good. So
I agree.
Anyways, that's all I got. I don't, you got anything else, or should we just?
No, we did what we came here to do. So guys, keep beating down your backlogs, and we'll keep breaking down the benefits.